everybody. Okay, welcome to the class, and I'm using the Apple Mac for the first time, so I'm very afraid of the computer. And today is my first time to use an Apple, and also, of course, it's the first time to go live on Facebook with the Apple. So, of course, I think we're going to have lots of fun and lots of problems with the Apple because already I have had maybe 10 surprises compared to the other laptop, the Dell. But no problem, let's try. So I'm sorry if we have some difficulties with the Mac, but it's very interesting and it's good to use, and fingers crossed you can see me, and fingers crossed we are connected. So you are welcome to leave a comment on the Facebook Live page, and thank you for joining the class. Yesterday was a little difficult, I believe, with the connection. So we tried some listening exercises yesterday, and I believe the connection maybe was a little weak. So hopefully today the connection will be fine, and we will have no problems with the technology. There's a big possibility we will have a problem, but fingers crossed everything will be okay. Um, I hope you have a good Saturday, and of course, I hope there's no disruption big here with the dog and people working from home. So enjoy the class. We will do a similar structure compared to other days. Um, you can use subtitles, so if you do not understand me, you can use subtitles on Facebook Live, and the majority of the subtitles are correct, but there are some little errors with the captions and the subtitles, but probably it's better to use the subtitles to follow the class. Okay, so this is a picture from Dublin, and it was last week. And on my Instagram, you can see a lot of pictures from Dublin, and also some information about the classes and some quotations and pictures. So at the moment, I have 3 posts per day, and I will continue using Instagram. So you are welcome to join Instagram. Here is the connection. So it's Ad Miliora Inglés is the channel for Instagram. YouTube, I have the channel and I put the content from the class always every day on YouTube. And some people prefer YouTube, but for me it's very similar. And Twitter is almost the same as well with the content. But you are welcome to join all the social media channels, and that will be very good. So these are the 2 pictures from Dublin. So it's a small tower in the center of Dublin. So really the location is incredible. It's in the middle of the city, and we have an old tower from an old church near to O'Connell Street. So it's very nice, and I will continue to take some pictures during the week and to put on Instagram from Dublin. So the agenda, fingers crossed with the technology and with the Apple, if it allows us, if it permits us, the agenda is to do the introduction document a little, to explain the most important concepts in relation to grammar, because at the beginning of the class it's very important to explain the key grammar concepts, because during the class I use the key grammar concepts frequently. So it's very important to be familiar with the different concepts and to understand the different ideas that are basic in English. So this is the idea every day, to look at the introduction document a little. After the introduction document, we have an article in relation to Brazil. So it's a little sad story. Of course, there's lots of problems around the world with pandemics and everything. So this story is in relation to Brazil and the difficulties for people in Brazil at the moment. So maybe it's interesting also for vocabulary and grammar. And I know today we have some people connecting from Brazil. We have some people all over the world in different places, in Spain, in England, in Ireland, from different countries, Poland, Romania, Thailand, Vietnam. So welcome everybody, and thank you for connecting. I hope this class will be beneficial for everybody. People have different levels, but I keep that in mind all the time, and I hope everybody can learn a little from the class. After the article, we have a list of phrasal verbs and a list of idioms. So these are 2 very important areas of English that we will look at, and speaking practice. If you want, to join the meeting. At the moment, I'm using Zoom and of course Facebook Live at the same time, but you are able to participate in the class with Zoom. If you want to ask a question, if you want to practice speaking, you can join the Zoom meeting here, and that's a possibility for today. Okay. Also, we have a webinar. So today at 1 o'clock, we have a specific webinar. Oh, fantastic. The technology worked. So this is today at 1 o'clock. It's a specific webinar in relation to the first certificate exams. And every Saturday at 1 o'clock, we do one particular class in relation to the exam, the first certificate. On Friday, yesterday, it was business English at 4 o'clock. Thursday, we have the advanced webinar. Wednesday, it's the IELTS webinar. Tuesday, it is football and sports. And Monday, it's dedicated specifically to grammar. So if you're interested to join a webinar, contact me and you can attend, no problem. Okay, there's a small fee of €2.90, but that's fine. Also, next week, the plan is to continue in the morning at 9 o'clock Irish time. We will begin speaking groups. So it's a fantastic opportunity for you and for anybody who wants to practice speaking or just to attend and listen to other people speaking. It's possible every day next week in the morning at 9 a.m. on Zoom, and there will be just general conversation, introduction, and we will choose a specific topic in relation to speaking, and the idea is for correction. So you will speak, I will give you a little correction, but also I will give you vocabulary and expressions in relation to topics. So we started on Friday morning and it was really good. We had 4 people and the maximum will be 10 just to keep the group small. So next week, every morning at 9 o'clock, you can join the speaking group. You can contact me and I can confirm your place. There's a small fee of €1, so it's incredibly cheap. It's brilliant price and it's a very good activity to start the morning and also to improve your English and to maintain your speaking. Okay, so fingers crossed. I'm going to share the screen and hopefully the computer does not explode. So, okay, voila. So here I am and I'm going to try and get familiar with this Apple because it's very, very new for me. But it's interesting. I like it. Obviously, it's very different, and maybe you have an opinion. The difference between the Apple computers and the Dell computers. I don't know what you prefer, but of course, this can be a topic for the speaking class next week. You have to attend. Okay, so we'll finish the picture. This beautiful picture of Dublin and the tower and the castle. And now I want to show you the introduction document. Yes. Okay. So we're doing great. We've started very, very well with the Apple. Everything is good. So this document is the most important document in my opinion. It's really good for every English concept. So it's the base, it's the foundation of every topic in English. And for me, there are 3 very, very important categories. The first category is use of English. You can see this section, it's use of English. The second category are the different tenses that we speak. So you speak in the present, you speak in the past, you speak in the future. It's very important you're familiar with the concepts at the beginning, because during the class I mention present simple, past simple, future simple, present continuous, past continuous, future continuous, present perfect, past perfect, future perfect, infinitive, conditional, active and passive. They're the most important concepts, and in January and February I have explained in detail at the beginning of my free classes this concept, okay, or these concepts. But tenses are very important. And finally, the third area is grammar. So there are grammar topics that are very important, and it's necessary for you. If you learn English, it's very important you are familiar with these concepts. It's so important. You really cannot understand the grammar without understanding the technical vocabulary. Yes, some people can speak very well without knowledge of grammar, that's for sure. But to be more confident and to be more certain of English, it's a big recommendation to be familiar with the concepts and to be familiar with the technical vocabulary. Okay, and this is a list of the technical vocabulary and the technical documents, and it's very, very important and very good. And I'll just briefly mention all the terms now. So for example, use of English. We have different accents around the world. So in Ireland, we have a particular accent. I have a particular accent, particularly with the U, the TH, and the O. So this is a big difficulty when you are trying to understand English in different parts of the world. We have different accents in Australia, New Zealand, Canada, United States. Incredibly different. Ireland, England, Scotland. It's big difference of vocabulary, accents, and velocity. So this is very hard for you and for anybody. If I learn Spanish, it's difficult in South America, it's difficult in Spain. It's very hard. So that's maybe the most important area for me in relation to learning English. The second area are phrasal verbs. So phrasal verb is the concept of the verb plus a preposition, but it's possible literal. For example, look up, that's literal, but the second significance is completely different. To look up has the significance to find or to search for information. So this area of phrasal verbs is huge. It's enormously important for English, and we have thousands and thousands of phrasal verbs in English, and they are really key. So phrasal verbs are very important. Idioms, similarly, are a big part of English, and we use idioms all the time in expressions, in conversations, with social situations, with family, professional situations. Idioms are a huge part of English. So this area, use of English, is probably the most important in my opinion. Also, conversation and pronunciation is key. So when you're learning English, yes, a lot of people study, a lot of people read, very good, a lot of people listen, and that's very comfortable and very easy. Well, not easy, but it's very different and very good. But speaking is very important, and a lot of people are a little shy. A lot of people have a little fear or maybe more shyness in relation to speaking, and the majority of people I teach have said exactly the same. People are a little shy, a little nervous, a little unsure when speaking. So this is important activity to practice, and hopefully you can establish the routine to practice, and that's important. Of course, next week we start the speaking group, and hopefully this will benefit you, because speaking and correction and help is very important. Pronunciation in English, we have a lot of irregular sounds and irregular phonetical situations in English. So the phonetics in English sometimes are irregular, and during the class I try to identify the key expressions. Okay, so now just to check that we are still using the Zoom, or that we're still on Facebook Live. Yes, I think we are live. You can still see here, so that's no problem. I just wanted to double check and to make sure everything is okay. So because yesterday was a disaster, we were disconnected during the class, which was a big pity. So I hope we have not the same problem today. So that's the use of English. That area is very important. The tenses. So you need to be familiar with the key concepts in relation to the tenses. We have the simple, you can see here, okay, the simple. We have the perfect and the continuous. So again, present simple is one action, past simple, future simple. The difficulty with the past simple, we have a lot of irregular verbs in the past simple, and this is really challenging and really problematic, because we have a lot of irregular verbs in the past, and this is hugely important and difficult in English. That's the present simple, past simple, future simple. We have the continuous, present continuous, one action you do continuously. You can see here, I am eating, I was eating. We have the past continuous, present continuous, future continuous. This is very important. Also, we have the perfect. So the concept of the present perfect is the period it's finished. The action is finished in the past. It's completed, but it is relevant, and the consequences are related to the present. The structure is have, extra verb have, subject, extra verb have, and the participle. I have eaten, I have gone, I have been. This is the present perfect. It's finished, but it is related to the present. The past perfect is the period that's finished, but it's usually used before another action in the past simple. So the past perfect typically is used with two actions in the past. One action is finished, and the next action is usually the past simple. I had eaten my breakfast before my friend contacted me. That's the idea of the perfect. It's a little advanced and a little, well, it's very important and it's very common because we use it all the time. And we have the future perfect as well. I will have eaten my breakfast before my friend will contact me. That's the idea of the perfect, the simple, the continuous. The infinitive is the base, to go, to eat. Okay, infinitive. The conditionals are very heavy in the theory in the book. We have the zero conditional, first conditional, second conditional, third conditional, mixed conditional in the book. It's very heavy, but in reality, I think it's a little less strict, and basically it's related to if. If I go to the shop, I will buy you some chocolate. If it rains today, I will not go to the city. So it depends on if and a different time. So it's a little flexible in reality, and they're very important. And finally, you have the active and the passive. The active is the subject, the verb, and the object. I drink coffee, active. And to create the passive, we change the position. The coffee is, so you introduce extra verb to be, participle of the original verb, is drunk by me. So I drink the coffee, that's the active. The coffee is drunk by me. It's an important concept. It's very good, it's very useful, and it's very frequent, very advanced, and very impressive, the active and the passive. So that area of the tenses is key. So if you have any doubt, it's very important later that you study your doubt and that you are very familiar with all the concepts here. That's the first step in English. Without a doubt, you need to be very comfortable with all the terminology, phrasal verbs, idioms, present perfect, past simple, present simple, future simple, infinitive, conditional. You need to be clear with those ideas first. Just a little clear, okay? Because it's important, especially during this class. I explain the vocabulary frequently, okay? And then finally, the third area is grammar. So here we have a list of the key expressions in relation to grammar. We have a noun. So a noun is basically a person, a place, or a thing. We have a lot of nouns: jacket, t-shirt, head, hair, hand, all noun, noun, noun. In Espanol, substantivo. Every noun, you need an article. We have two articles: a hand or the hand. A is possible two pronunciations, a or a, and the is the definite article you can see here. There is one rule: when the noun begins with a vowel, we need an with the article. That's the general rule. There are exceptions, but generally when the noun begins with a vowel, a, e, I, o, u, we use an, an apple, an orange. That's the article. We have the idea of the countable and uncountable noun. Is it possible to count television, one television, two televisions? Yes, television is countable. Water. Is it possible to count water? Not really, because we say one bottle of water, 2 glasses of water, 3 liters of water, but water is not countable. This is important in relation to how much and how many. So if it's not countable, we say how much. How much water do you want? How much chocolate do you want? But how many bottles do you want? How many hands do you want? So it's very important difference between countable and uncountable nouns in English, okay? Adjective is before the noun. The position of the adjective describes the noun. We also have the comparative and the superlative. So adjective, big, to compare. This pen is big. This pen is bigger than this pen, but this pen is the biggest. So that's the comparative and the superlative. It's normally regular if it's ER and EST if it's one syllable, but if it's more than one syllable, for example, interesting, more interesting, most interesting. So that area is important. Adverb is to describe the verb. The function of the adverb is to describe the verb, and normally it's ly. Modal verbs are key in English. We have a lot of modal verbs: can, could, may, might, shall, should, ought to. They depend on ability. They relate to ability, possibility, options, permission, recommendation, advice, and obligation. So those areas are the modal verbs, and they're very important in English, and we use modal verbs all the time. The key rule with the modal verb, the next verb, we eliminate two. So normally the verb to go, to eat, to drink, if you have a modal verb before, can, may, might, we eliminate two. Can go, may eat, might go. That's correct. And the error, can to go. So it's necessary to eliminate two after the modal. Prepositions are basically little words in relation to position and movement and direction. There's maybe 150 prepositions, and they are so important to understand the significance of the sentence. They're related to movement. I go to the city. I travel to Ireland. Direction, for example, or movement, I go across the road. So direction, movement, I go across the road, and position. The football is in my hand. The football is below, over. So prepositions are key, especially in relation to phrasal verbs. We have the verb and the preposition, which can change completely the significance of the sentence. Okay. This area here also we have, finally, we have the possessive adjective, possessive pronoun, and the object pronoun. So the difference between my chocolate, your chocolate, his chocolate, our chocolate, that's the possessive adjective, or the chocolate is mine, the chocolate is yours, the chocolate is his, the chocolate is hers. That's the possessive object or possessive pronoun. Then we have the object pronoun. Give the chocolate to me, give the chocolate to him, give the chocolate to her. Particularly in relation to masculine and feminine, it's very important. Him or his, hers, give it to him, give it to her, or you can see as well here, his or hers with the S. Okay, so particularly with the masculine and the feminine, it's very important. The difference between this, that, these, and those is very important. The difference between another, other, the other, and the others is very important. And during the class, I try to identify. Construction of the question is very important. The suffix and prefix is very important. So the little letters at the end of the word can give you a big indication of the form of the verb. For example, ance is typically noun, the importance. Ize is typically verb. To realize, to monetize, to fantasize, they're typical verbs with the suffix. Able is typical adjective, manageable, reachable. Okay, so very important, the idea of the suffix and the prefix. We have linkers. You have simple linkers and you have more advanced linkers. We have specific vocabulary. So if you are working in a particular area, you might be interested in specific vocabulary, of course, and that's important. And there's lots of vocabulary in English for different areas, but reading is maybe the key for that. To improve your vocabulary, you need to read a lot, and writing is a big skill as well. So remember, listening is a skill, a talent, and it's very popular. Listening, reading is very important. Writing is incredibly important. Speaking is incredibly important, and grammar. They're the 5 areas that are very important. And finally, we have exams. So in English, there's a lot of popular exams. Cambridge exams. You have the first certificate, the advanced certificate, the proficiency certificate, very popular. And also you have the IELTS exams. So I have specific classes in the afternoons every day in relation to exam preparation that you are welcome to attend and welcome to join. Okay, so that's really good. So now we can close this and we can begin with an article. So this is an article in relation to Brazil. So very interesting, obviously a little sad because there's lots of problems in the world, of course, but the focus really is for vocabulary and for grammar in relation to this topic. So remember, you are welcome to join the meeting. So this Zoom here is, if you want to join the meeting in relation to Zoom, you can connect with the code here, and the code at the bottom is 892-2399-9058 is the ID, and the passcode is 65044 if you have a question and if you want to ask a question. So I'm just going to keep the meeting active because sometimes the chat disappears when we have inactivity in the group. Okay, so let me close this. I don't know why I can't close it. I'll just close it. Okay, so the structure, the method for the text, the article, I will read the article for pronunciation first, then I will return for the vocabulary and try to explain the vocabulary and the grammar. So that's the typical strategy, the typical technique, and this is just a typical article from Reuters. Okay, so the company for the news is very famous and very important, Reuters, and it's business news, and the date, of course, and the journalist is Jamie McGeever, just for credit. Okay, and I will read. So millions in Brazil thrown back into poverty as pandemic aid dries up. Okay, so very good title already and some very important expressions. And now, Tatiana Araujo de Siqueira, so obviously a very Portuguese and Brazilian name, a 33-year-old single mother of 6 and Brazilian president, Jair, I don't know how to pronounce it, Jair Bolsonaro, are almost neighbors, but they inhabit different universes. Okay, so it's a story about a lady who lives very close to the president, but of course the palace for the president in Brazil and the neighborhoods are very, very close, but they have completely different social power and maybe financial situations. Okay, so that's the story. And here's the lady. You can see it's a little video, but we will just focus on the text for the moment. Okay, Siqueira lives by a landfill less than a mile from the Planalto presidential palace in Brasilia, along with 36 other families, and scrapes together cash by recycling trash. Okay, she is one of Brazil's 40 million or so invisibles, a term coined by Economy Minister Paulo Guedes for those without formal employment who had flown largely under the radar. So really good quality English, very fluent, and a very good article of Brazil's government and society. I live beside the president, so it's a quotation. I see him and his security pass by here every day, she said on a hot, dusty afternoon outside her improvised shack. Okay, how can he pass here every day and not see the families here? Last year, Siqueira was not invisible from April to December. So, of course, it's very important the difference between from and since. From April to December, she and some 66 million other Brazilians received the government's most generous cash transfer program ever, emergency aid to help the most vulnerable through the pandemic. That nearly $60 billion burst of basic income softened, so really good grammar, really good vocabulary, the economic blow of the coronavirus boosted Bolsonaro's popularity and beat back poverty, but its expiration at the end of 2020 is unraveling many of those effects. So some excellent vocabulary. I'm highlighting the key vocabulary and I'm highlighting the important expressions that I hope I can explain, but I will explain some of them. Okay. Siqueira now relies on the pre-existing Bolsa Familia social benefit of up to 250 reais, $36 a month, about a third of last year's emergency aid, missing out on a smaller second round of the cash transfer program that starts in April. Okay, and then we continue. They said, I no longer met the criteria and so I can no longer be part of the program. Life has gotten much more difficult since, with 6 children to raise. Okay, millions of Brazilians like her were briefly lifted out of poverty, only to be tossed back again. So really high quality vocabulary. The national poverty rate dropped suddenly to 4.5% in August from almost 11% at the start of 2020, calculates the Getulio Vargas Foundation. Okay, so that's sufficient just for the pronunciation and to give you a little indication of the key vocabulary. But now, so millions in Brazil, so the preposition for the country in Ireland, in Brazil, in Italy, in Germany. So country, in, city, in Dublin, in Cork, in Rome, in London. So for the city and for the country, we say in. Thrown back. So this is the verb to throw. Okay, and most people, I think, understand the verb to throw. And it's logical in this case. So let me see if, there we go, perfect. So basically to throw is with the ball normally, but this is a metaphor for the people are maybe thrown back. So it's literal. Into is the preposition for movement. So you walk into the room or you go into the shop. So it's for direction and movement. So these people are thrown back into poverty. Okay, so poverty is the noun and the adjective, of course, is poor. So poor is the adjective and the noun is poverty. Okay, so this is a very important word because the majority of people understand the word poor, but the noun poverty is more advanced and less people are familiar with this word. So poor is the adjective and poverty. So you're typically in poverty, and then this is more direction into poverty. So they are physically, well, it's more metaphorically thrown back into poverty. Okay, pandemic aid. So this word is very important. The verb is to aid, and the significance is to help. So I will aid you. I will help you. We It's a verb, okay, and the noun is the aid. So you need aid, which means you need help and you need assistance. Okay, we also say first aid, which is the training that you receive in medical situations. So you have the certificate for first aid. So the significance is to help when people have a problem. It's the basic medical training, first aid. Okay, we also have a hearing aid. So this is the device, the little piece of technology you put in your ear if you have a problem with your listening. So this is a hearing aid. Okay, so it's very flexible. It's possible a walking aid. If you have difficulty to walk, you have a walking aid. Okay, and there is an expression as well, to come to your aid, which means to help you or to assist you. So if you come to my aid, you help me and you assist me. Okay, so good vocabulary, and here it's related to financial situations. So the financial help or the financial aid dries up. Okay, so really good. The verb is to dry, secar in Espanol, but the phrasal verb to dry up is when you have no more, typical in relation to the oasis in the desert. So imagine the oasis in the desert, and it's necessary the water, but eventually the oasis and the water dries up. So up is significant because it's finished. Okay, so it dries up, there's no more. It's typical for water, for liquid, and for money. So the aid, the money, the assistance from the government has, present perfect because it started in the past, it's finished, and it's related to now, has dried up. So it has finished. Okay, so to dry up means there is no more. Very common, very fluent, and very simple, you can see. So it's a simple little preposition, but it can change the significance of the sentence completely. Okay, here we have the article. So remember, then every noun has an article, and here it's maybe a mother. So the noun is a mother. The adjective is 33-year-old. So there are two adjectives. 33-year-old. There should be another hyphen. Single is another adjective. So we have two adjectives here. The hyphen can connect the three words. So normally we say 33-year-old, and this is the rule, that the hyphen can connect three different words together to make one adjective. So this is just one adjective. Okay, single mother of six, almost no problem, and neighbors. So here you can see the spelling in the United States. The spelling in the United States is B-O-R, but in the United Kingdom it is B-O-U-R. Okay, so neighbor. So there's a little difference between the United States and the United Kingdom in relation to the spelling. Just a little detail, but very important as well. Okay, so simple but very important. Here it's the U, and here it's the United States because the article. They inhabit, so this is the subject. I, you, he, she, they. Inhabit is the verb, and this is very important because the verb is to inhabit, and the substantiva or the noun is inhabitants. This is different in Portuguese and different in Spanish, so be careful, because a person is an inhabitant. Okay, so it's the person who lives in the city or in the country, and I think in Espanol it's solo habitante. Okay, so in English, I don't know why they give me the, no, it's not inhabit. Okay, so that's the noun, an inhabitant. Just important vocabulary, and again, the detail is important because it's different compared to Spanish and to Portuguese. So the inhabitant is the person who lives in the city or the person who lives in the area. The verb is to inhabit, and this is the verb. Different universes. Not too difficult. First paragraph, not too difficult. So you can see the lady on her in her room. It looks like a type of room, obviously, with her belongings and her possessions. Okay. This is a preposition, lives by, and remember the verb to live is different in pronunciation related to the adjective. So the verb is to live. I live in Ireland. Okay. The third person, I live, you live, he lives. So the third person has the S. He or she lives. Okay, with the S. And the noun is life. Okay, so this is important. The noun is life, but the verb is to live, and maybe plural are lives. Okay, and the adjective is live. We have a few adjectives: live, lively, or alive. So there are three adjectives related to this family, and they're a little bit different in terms of context. So live is typical in relation to music, live football, live sport, in directo in Espanol, live sport, live music. So the word is the same spelling but completely different pronunciation. I live and live, strange, irregular. Lively is an adjective to describe the city that is very energetic, a lot of energy, a lot of life. So the city is very lively, the person is very lively, very enthusiastic, very energetic, and alive is the adjective, the opposite to dead. Okay, so if you are alive, you are obviously watching this class, but alive and dead are the differences, and three different adjectives in relation to live, lively, and alive. Okay, so here it's the third person, so it's the S. By is the possession preposition, like beside. I live by the river. I live beside the river has the same significance, really. I pass by. I pass beside. And a landfill is typically the place where we put the rubbish and the trash. So the people collect the rubbish and they put the rubbish in the landfill. So the verb is to fill, como llenar, fill the glass, fill the bottle, and you fill the land in relation to the trash and the rubbish. Okay. Um, Along with means also. So I go to the party along with my friend. I go to the city along with my dog. It's like with. So it's basically with, but it's emphasis that it's with you. Okay. But here we have 36 other, and you remember the difference between another and other. So because it's other, it's necessary plural. So other families. But if it's singular, we say another family. Okay, so that's basic, but it's very important. Another family, but other families. Okay, so singular is the first one and plural is the second one. Very important detail and very interesting. So here it's other, plural, scrapes together. This is very, very advanced. So this is the first really difficult word. So cash is money, moneda. So cash is the money. It's another word for money. Usually it's coin and the note. So the coin and the note in your pocket is the cash. Um, so here together in Espanol is juntos, and to scrape together is very, very advanced. So first the verb to scrape, and it's typical for children, typical for people when you fall. So for example, the children fall and they hit the arm on the ground and they have a little scrape. Okay, so a scrape is this action when you have a little cut on the screen. You can scrape the screen. For the teacher in the school, you have the black. She scrapes the screen with your nails. Okay, so to scrape is this action, and it's usually desperate. So if you're in a difficult situation, you have to scrape. So it's very desperate, and this is the expression here. She scrapes together cash. So it's very, very desperate. She has to find cash. Very descriptive, very, very fluent, very advanced to scrape together. Um, it's flexible, so basically it's to collect, but it's very desperate. Okay, so probably the translation is to desperately collect. And it's possible as well, you were in the past, you were in a scrape, which means you were in a dangerous situation because it's almost dangerous. So it's not, it doesn't do severe damage, but it's a little dangerous. So a little scrape means that you were in a difficult moment, a difficult situation, maybe a little small car crash, you had a scrape, but it's different from a scrap. So a scrap is like a fight, so it's completely different. A scrap and a fight, or a scrap of paper is a piece of paper, so it's a little bit different between the two. A scrape and a scrap. So here she scraps together. It's like collect desperately. cash, by. So this word is very important to answer how. I go to the city centre. How do I go to the city centre? By car, by plane. It's to answer why. I make lasagna, but how do I make lasagna? By putting the meat with the cheese in the oven. So the answer is usually with by. So she collects the money. How does she collect the money? She collects it by recycling trash. Okay, so trash is the same as rubbish, and maybe it's more typical in the United States. So they maybe say trash in the United States, but rubbish is maybe more in Ireland or in England. But really, they're all very flexible today because we all watch the same movies, we all listen to the same English. So really, it's a bit flexible. But there is a verb, so you can trash your project, which means to throw away your project or to rub. So it is a bit flexible, basically. Okay. This is important as well. A term coined by. So this is very advanced also. Scrapes together is very advanced, and coined by is also very advanced. So obviously a coin is related to money. So again, you have cash in your pocket, you have the notes, and you have the coins. But it's a little flexible, this verb, so it's a little different. The verb is to coin, and it's related to como llamar, or to name. So this is my dog, and I coin him, so I give him the name. I coin him Buddy, okay, or mate, or pal. So I coin him means I give him the name. Maybe it's related to the factory or the bank that make the money, that produce the money, and they coin the money and they give a name to the money. So this is a very advanced structure. So a term is like a name, coined by, which basically means created by, or the name was given by or made by the economy mister. For those, and you remember the difference between this person, that person, these people, and those people. So there's a big difference between this, that, these, and those. And I think here is obviously the plural, but it's in relation to people. So it would be this person singular, that person singular away, these people plural, and those people plural as well. And this is those without formal employment. This is a very good expression as well. So this is a third advanced expression, flown under the radar. So largely is the adverb related to the verb to fly. So it's difficult because it's irregular. The verb is to fly. The past is flew, irregular, and the participle is flown. In school, you learn the three columns: fly, flew, flown. So the third column is the participle, and the participle is used in the past perfect. You remember the past perfect? It's the period in the past, usually before another action in the past simple, and the construction of the past perfect is the extra verb have and the participle. This is the reason we identify this, because it's the auxiliary had, and that's the past perfect. Okay, so we know because of the structure. So fly is the verb. Largely means the majority. So it had flown principally, the majority, under the radar. Okay, so this is a very good expression as well. So the radar, I think, is very international. In the airport, you have the radar. Okay, so if you're flying under the radar, the significance is nobody can see you, nobody can detect you, because the radar is here and you're under the radar, so you're invisible. So it's a very, very good synonym for invisible, very good descriptive English in this situation in society when people have no registration, so they're flying under the radar. Okay. Again, here's the preposition by. So there's two significances for by. It could be beside or past the preposition. I live by the river, beside the river, number one. But the second one is in relation to the answer for the activity. So I make the lasagna by putting the meat in the oven. That's the second significance. But the first significance is the position beside. And here it's the position. So I pass by here every day. She said, so this is the subject. The verb is to say in the present. It's irregular, said, and on is typical for the afternoon. Okay, because it's tricky. Because normally we say in the afternoon. Okay, in the afternoon, in the evening, in the morning, and they are the most typical. But on is typical for a day, on Monday, okay, on Tuesday. So normally for on, it's a day, and here it's a little creative because it is possible as well on an afternoon. Don't worry too much, but it is possible in or on. And here it's the adjective. Hot is one adjective, and dusty is another adjective. So I want to explain the adjective hot because you need to be clear between the adjective and the noun and the verb for this family. So hot is the adjective in relation to the weather or your sensation. You feel hot because it's very warm, okay? But the verb is to heat. So this computer or this radiator heats me. So the verb is to heat, okay? Also, the noun is the same. So this is very important because it's a little confusing and it's very important to be very clear. So the noun is the heat in the room. So I am very hot with my temperature, but the room is very hot, but the heat in the room. So the difference between the noun and the adjective and the verb. So the radiator heats me, the radiator heats the room. Okay? Simple, but very important as well. Dust is the noun, como polvo in Espanol. So if the room is very dirty, you maybe do this and you have the dust. Okay? Polvo. But the adjective is dusty. Okay, so it's just related to this, but we can use it in relation to the weather because of the heat. The sun is very hot and there's a lot of dust. So I think dusty is related to the temperature and the sensation on the street. Okay, improvised is very flexible, so it's improvised. You can see the picture. It's not an organized room. It's not a typical house. It's not a typical apartment. It's improvised. So she collected pieces and bits of different things to make a room. So it's improvise. So the verb is to improvise. The noun is improvise, and adjective is maybe improvised. And yeah, they would be the most common. So very, very good vocabulary. And a shack is a typical word to describe maybe something that's not secure. It's maybe very fragile. It's maybe for your home. It's flexible in relation to social culture. So a shack is similar to maybe a home, but it's not a very concrete home. It's a very temporary home. Okay, and there's a famous expression as well. The love shack is maybe typical in movies or in songs. It's the place where maybe you're very comfortable and very happy. So a shack here is obviously in the picture perfectly describes her room is not very concrete. It's very temporary. Okay. Good. And then the next paragraph, let's identify the key vocabulary in the next very paragraph. I don't think there's anything too difficult, just the linker. However, is for contrast. In Espanol, sin embargo. However, for contrast. So you are very happy in Dublin. However, you're not happy with the temperature or the weather. Okay. And here again, the difference between since and from. Since is one moment in the past, since 8 o'clock, since 1 o'clock, since yesterday. But from is usually two times. From 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock. From yesterday until today. So that's the big difference between since and from. Okay. Other, again, is important for the plural. So another Brazilian is singular, but other Brazilians with the S. So that's the key. Okay. The government is possession. So this is the government's program is the possession of the government. And this is the comparative and the superlative because generous is the adjective and it's more than one syllable. So we use more generous, most generous. Okay. So the government's most generous transfer program ever. So it's the superlative. There is nothing better before. Okay. Emergency aid. So emergency assistance or emergency help to help the most vulnerable, just the pronunciation, vulnerable, because in Espanol it's vulnerable, so in English it's vulnerable, okay? And to help through is the phrasal verb, okay? So that's really the key, to help somebody through a difficult time is to survive. So if you're in a difficult moment and you're here, you need assistance or you need help to pass a través, to pass through. So you need to get help through the problem. Okay. And they're the most key expressions. We have two more expressions before we continue to another part. But here, the key here is beat. The three words: soften, beat, and to unravel. Okay, so soft is the adjective. Most people understand soft. The verb is to soften, is to make something soft. So if this object is very hard, you want liquid or you want a product to soften the item. Okay, so the verb is to soften, and the typical suffix is en, and we have a lot of verbs in relation to en. And here's one example: to soften, to darken, to lighten, to brighten. These are the typical verbs in relation to en. So it means basically to make something soft, to make something dark, to make something light, and to make something bright. Okay, and here it's the verb, and it's also the past simple. The next expression is to beat, and it's typical in sport, so you need to be clear with the verbs to win, to lose, to beat, and I think in Espanol it's batear, so it's possibly physical, to beat my arm, number one, the heartbeat, okay, but in relation to sport, one team beat the other team, so they have the victory. So the typical verb in English is Boca Juniors beat River Plate. So Boca Juniors win, but if it's an other team, they beat the other team. Okay, so you have to be clear the difference between to win and to beat. Okay, so it's very important here. And in this situation, is they beat back poverty, to reduce poverty. Okay, and the final expression is really, really good and really advanced. To unravel is the verb. Okay, and it's typical in relation to something that you make. So if you construct something, it takes a long time to construct and to make, but if it unravels, it's like to fall down or to fall apart. Okay, so here the effect, it takes a long time to make the effect, a long time to help, but if it unravels, it collapses. So very, very good, very advanced vocabulary, to unravel. Okay, typical maybe with a present, but maybe for plans as well. So if you make your plans, you organize your plans for your holiday, for your trip, everything is prepared, everything is organized, but then something changes and everything unravels. It changes everything, so really good. Okay, well done. So that's very good vocabulary. I will put the link for the article in the video below the comments, and I will put the notes in the video as well in below in the comment section. Okay. Now, let us try some phrasal verbs, okay? So remember, you are welcome to join the meeting, and I will just keep the meeting active because I don't want to disconnect. And again, I'll just show you the code if you want to join. But we will continue with the phrasal verbs a little. Okay, so here's the list, the meeting ID. So this is the article completed and the introduction document completed, and now I will continue a little with the idioms list. Okay, so here we can see the idioms. Okay, and the last idiom we saw was to pull out all the stops, which is very advanced, and the significance is to do everything you can. So to pull out all the stops, I don't know why it's not working, but the verb is to pull out all the stops, and the significance is to do everything possible that you can to make something happen. So if you're organizing the wedding and you have a lot of things to do, you really need to work hard. And we say to pull out all the stops has the significance to do everything you can to make the situation work. Okay, so to pull out all the stops means to do everything possible to make something happen or to make something function. Okay, the next one is very famous. To punch above one's weight is very, very good. So it's related to boxing, and the verb to punch is this action in relation to boxing. But typically in boxing, you have the classification. Okay, you have different classifications in boxing. You have the very technical, but you have maybe beginner. You have very related to the size. So you have very light, you have bigger weight. So the verb is to weigh, and the noun is weight. So it's the classification. So if my classification is this level, and it's typical maybe in romantic situations or dating. So if my classification is maybe this level, and you're dating another person who's in a different league or in a different classification, it's very typical, the metaphor, to say you are punching above your classification, above your weight, because typically the two boxers can fight at the same classification. Because if one boxer is too big, it's not fair and it's not an equal fight. So this is an expression to punch above your weight, means to be doing something that is out of your league, or you are not qualified, or you're not comfortable in that situation. There's another expression as well, out of your depth, which means you're related to the swimming pool, because you have the shallow end and the deep end. Okay, that's technical vocabulary. Shallow end is the water that's very low, and the deep end is very deep. So if you are comfortable here and you continue to walk, and suddenly you are not comfortable, so you are out of your depth. So that's a very famous expression as well. You're out of your depth. And the word we say in relation to the swimming pool is the shallow end and the deep end. It's possible a person is very shallow if the person's values, or the person does an action that's not very good. It's possible to say a shallow person. They have no values. Okay, a shallow person. Good. Puppy love is very famous as well. So a puppy is the name for a young dog. A baby dog is a puppy or a pup. And you can say maybe puppy love is maybe typically the sensation at the beginning of a relationship, or the beginning of a relationship, and it's puppy love because it's everybody loves the puppy and they're very obvious and they're very romantic. So that's a typical expression in movies as well, puppy love. The next one's quite literal, no problem. So the complicated concept. This is a complicated concept, and I want to explain the concept in black and white, because black and white is very clear, it's very easy to understand. So this is an expression when you want somebody to explain the complicated idea very clearly. Can you explain in black and white? Can you put it in black and white? So that's quite literal. The next expression is also literal and funny. So a cap is also the same as a hat. So this is my cap, this is my hat. And when I put my hat on, that's normal. But if you put your thinking hat on, this is a joke or a metaphor that you need to think. You need time to think. So one situation, maybe the friends organize the party and they cannot decide the best location. So one friend says, "Oof, you need to put your thinking cap on." So you need time to think seriously. You need to work hard to try to find a solution. So you need to put your thinking cap on. Very famous. Okay. Rags to riches is also very, very famous. So a rag is typical in the kitchen. If I'm cleaning the kitchen and I'm cleaning with this, for example, this is a tissue, but imagine it's the cloth, the cloth that's very old and very dirty. So it's a special cloth, which is very similar word, but a rag is maybe dirty, it's old, bad quality, but it's used to clean the liquid or to clean the floor. That's a rag. It's possible for your clothes. If my clothes are very old, my clothes are very dirty, they're maybe my rags. Okay, so that's a bit possible. And I think we have an expression as well, glad rags. It's in a song. I think the Stereophonics have a song with the glad rags. So it's type of clothes. So the expression from rags to riches means that you begin with very, very poor. So I begin very poor with dirty clothes and because I have no money, and you go from here to riches. So from rags to riches is a very famous expression that you start very poor and maybe you find or you have a lot of money, for example. Okay, from rags to riches. The next one's very famous as well in relation to Ireland and in relation to rain. So, of course, it rains a lot in Ireland. So we have a lot of expressions and a lot of vocabulary for rain. And one expression is to rain. Cats and dogs basically means it's raining a lot. Because if you imagine cats and dogs falling, it's very heavy. So to rain cats and dogs is the expression to say it's raining a lot and very heavily. Okay, we can also say bucketing down, because a bucket is typically to carry the water, and if you empty the bucket, it's very heavy rain. So it's very typical to bucket down is possible as well. We can say lashing rain, because the verb is to lash. which is very strong, typical the animal, you lash the animal. So if the rain is lashing, it's hitting very, very strong. So of course I am Irish and I have a lot of vocabulary in relation to rain. So no problem, we can do a special class if you want in relation to the vocabulary. We can say to drizzle, which is light rain, and I'm not joking, this is serious. Drizzle, so there's lots of vocabulary. So raining cats and dogs has the significance that it's raining very heavily and raining a lot. Okay, to raise the white flag is a famous expression as well. So I think most people understand the white flag. So the white flag is, so I'm going to try and zoom in. No, okay. The white flag is very clear. So the flag is the bandera, and it's possible a verb in English. If you flag a problem, the verb to flag the problem, it's to identify the problem. Okay, number one, to flag a problem is like to identify, but to raise is to lift. And remember the difference. I think this is the third day to explain rise and raise. Okay, so there's two verbs that are similar, but it depends on the person or the object. So raise, so that's bad spelling, sorry. Raise is typical the person. I raise my hand. I raise the question. I raise a child, which means to educate and to give food and to love. I raise the child. I raise a question. I raise my hand. I raise an objection. So it's very, very typical for the person. You raise, I raise. But rise is typical for the subject, is maybe the temperature rises, the sun rises, or the price rises. Okay, so here raise, so it's probably the person. So I raise the white flag, and typically in the military or in the army, when the person raises the white flag, they surrender. So they surrender because they quit or they give up or they surrender. So to raise the white flag is a metaphor we use in lots of situations to surrender, to give up, and to quit. Okay? Very flexible, very general, very good English. Raring to go is really, really good as well. And it's an expression to say you cannot wait. You're really excited and you're raring to go. So you're full of energy, you're full of optimism, and you're full of enthusiasm. So you're raring to go, but you need to wait until the start. But it's a very famous expression. So you start your new job tomorrow, and today you're very excited, you're very animated, you're very enthusiastic, but you cannot wait. You're so energetic, so you're raring to go. It's a curious word because I think there is a verb to rare, and it's not so common, but I need to research a little bit more for this verb because yesterday I was considering the significance of this, and I probably need to research a little bit more to see the connection with raring to go. But it is very common. If you're raring to go, you're very excited and you cannot wait. Okay, the next one is very good as well. So a rat race, I think, is literal. People understand the rat. It's the difference between the mouse and the rat. So the mouse is the little animal or the little vermin. So the mouse is little and the rat is big. But a rat race, so a race is physical, like athletics, but a rat race is a metaphor for a life. So because people are very concerned with money, people are very concerned with business, with career, so they're really racing against each other. And the rats are very competitive, and the rats have no sympathy, and the rats have no heart, maybe. So they're very mean, they're very aggressive. So this is a metaphor to say work is a rat race because everybody's very aggressive, there's no sympathy. So that's a very, very common expression as well. Life, the job is a rat race. Red flag. So we have seen the expression a white flag is surrender or to give up, white flag. But a red flag, I think, is like a warning. So if you see a red flag, it's a big dangerous situation or a warning, an alert. Okay, alert, alert, alert. So if you see a red flag, it's a problem. So it's a metaphor in your work. If you identify if this is a red flag, you need to be careful. Okay, so it's a metaphor to say you need to be careful. And red herring. So a herring, I think, is a type of bird, but I produced a picture last week on Instagram with my sign. It said a red herring, and I had my red jumper. So a red herring is a metaphor for something that's not important, like a distraction. I think it's a metaphor for a distraction. So if I'm the politician and I want to distract the people's attention, so I say something and people focus on this, but this is a red herring because the real story is maybe here. Okay, so it's a very famous expression, a red herring and red hot. Okay, so red hot is very literal. If something's very hot and it's very, very red, it's just emphasis and to intensify the sensation. So it's red hot. And maybe you can say the product is red hot. It's very important. It's very popular. So maybe the significance is popular. If the new Apple iPhone is red hot, that means everybody wants it. It's very, very popular and very important. We have another expression as well, maybe hot potato, which is a little different. So if it's a hot, imagine you have the potato, and the potato is very, very hot. You cannot control the potato because you need to throw because it's very hot. So this is a metaphor in relation to a topic. If the topic is very controversial and you cannot deal with the topic, you cannot solve the topic, it's a hot potato because you're not very firm, you're not very strong, you cannot decide. It's a hot potato. Just another expression. Good. So that's good work today. We did the introduction for the grammar. We did all the technical vocabulary for the introduction. We also did the article about Brazil for vocabulary and for expressions. And you can see all the notes here I will put at the end of the class. And I'm just going to show you the link. If now you want to practice some speaking on Zoom, you are welcome to connect. That's one possibility. Remember, today we have a webinar specifically at 1 o'clock. So very, very soon we have a specific webinar in relation to the first certificate. So this is today at 1 o'clock, and we will focus on the exam, and we will focus on different parts of the exam. We have the use of English, the reading, the writing, the listening. So it's another good opportunity to practice some English. You are welcome to join. If you want to connect, just contact me and I can confirm your place. There's a small fee of €2.90, but it's a very good opportunity to continue with the class. Okay, so that is today. Also, everything is free in the morning, so obviously it's a good opportunity for me, and really I want to help the people who cannot afford to attend the class and who cannot afford a teacher. So this intention of the free classes is to help the people who need the English classes. At the same time, if you can support me, if you can donate a small quantity, that will be a very big help for me. It will be a very big support. There's the possibility with Bizum in Spain, you can see the application with the telephone number, or Revolut is very popular in Ireland, and you just need the telephone number, or the bank details are here. You can see with the IBAN or the BIC, or PayPal as well. So there's 3 or 4 options if you want to make a small donation or a small transfer. It would be a very big help and a big support for me, and that would help me a lot. Social media, so you can connect on Instagram, Twitter and YouTube as possible as well, and they are all the information that you can see on the webpage. So I think that's everything. Yeah, have a very good day, and I think we had no problems with the Wi-Fi and the connection, I hope. So thank you so much for attending the class, and I hope you learned a little and enjoyed. Remember, next week in the morning at 9 o'clock we have the speaking groups. So there is specific practice for speaking next week, starting on Monday at 9 o'clock. And you can contact me as well if you want to confirm your place. Okay, so that is the plan for next week. And I'm just going to check the Facebook that we have everything live. I think we're okay. So thank you so much, everybody. Have a good day, and let me just try and finish the meeting, because I think I just have to press the button to end the class. Okay, so thank you so much, everybody. Have a good day and talk to you soon. Bye bye.